Well, good morning and welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority this September the 15th, 2023. And we're here at beautiful Balls Falls here in Jordan. I'm going to start by asking to have our roll call done. So, Gina, please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. We have Member Beatty. Thank you. Member Clark. Member Cridland.
Here.
Thank you. Member Grant. Member Houston, I believe I saw her online.
Here.
Thank you. Member Metcalf.
Present.
Thank you. Member O'Neill. Member Seaborn. And Member Taddison. And of course, Chair Foster.
I'm present, and this is our first everybody's here at a meeting, so congratulations us. I'm going to ask Donna to do our acknowledgement this morning. Donna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Foster. With National Day of Truth and Reconciliation this September 30th, I asked for this privilege this morning, so thank you again. The Niagara Peninsula watershed is situated within the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Adirondack and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties number 3, 4, and 381, and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the watershed is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Through the 2021 and 2031 strategic plan, we reconfirm our commitment to shared stewardship of natural resources and deep appreciation of Indigenous culture and history in the watershed. And if I could just be indulged for one more moment, Chair, thank you. Just wanted to bring everybody's awareness to our Reawakening All of Our Senses event at our wonderful Balls Falls, September 23rd. And if I could ask board members to share that on their socials, I would much appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Member Cridland. We do have the agenda published and in front of us this morning. Is there any changes, additions, etc. to this? Madam CAO, is there anything else wish to be added? No? So with that, I'm going to ask Member Clark, can you move that we accept the agenda? Member Beatty, could you please second that? All those in favor? And that's carried. Any declarations of conflict of interest this morning? Hearing none, let's move to approval of minutes from previous meeting. Can I get Member Grant to move that we accept the minutes of the full authority meeting dated July 21st, 2023? And can I get Member Cridland to second that, please? Any questions or comments to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Chair's update. Oh, I'll get to hear from me for a minute or two. So, boy, it's been an interesting month when it comes to the NPCA. I have been involved with a wide variety of things. And first of all, I'm going to start off with the amazing photo that Mayor Grant and I managed to get with MP Badaway and MPP Oosterhoff down in Morgan's Point. They were doing a broadband announcement, but we made sure that we had the sign for Morgan's Point showing up clear on that particular photo. So anyway, even indirect publicity is great publicity. So I have been doing some work on the 2 billion trees project that we have going in the background. There's been 2 applications made by the NPCA. If we get these, this is going to be a significant boost for us here at the NPCA and is going to lead into a variety of programs over the course of the next couple of years. I have been talking to all 4 of the MPs from Niagara, as well as talking to various MPPs as well on this, and doing the advocacy work that's required with that. Chandra and I, as well as Carrie Royer, attended the butterfly garden over at Beaver Dams Park over in Thorold. This is the garden that we planted in memory of Mickey DeFruzio, and it was actually a really good day. The entire family was there. Quite a variety of politicians from Thorold and of course us as the NPCA. We got mentioned very kindly within that. There's also was a discussion that there's going to be a butterfly, and there was a planting done in Welland as well for Mickey. So that's really good. And by the way, for those of you that didn't know Mickey, longtime NPCA supporter. He was on the board and on the foundation for over 25 years. Put it this way, he's Mr. Monarch Butterfly in Niagara. So anyway, that was really good. Chandra and I also took the opportunity to have a discussion with MP Badaway on issues in and around Great Lakes and some of the programs that are coming out of the States as well as here in Canada for shoreline erosion and various projects that are going on like that. I will be coming back to you guys with more information on that as I dig into it further, but there's some exciting possibilities for us as the NPCA to be partnering with other levels of government in order to go and do some work in these particular areas. So as I say, lots has been going on in the last little bit. So Chandra and I have become best friends as we've been going through and dealing with all of these things. So anyway, with that, let us move into our correspondence that we have this morning. There's 3 items of correspondence. First off, does anyone wish to talk about and vote on separately any of these pieces of correspondence? Member Beattie?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we are going to consult with the Mississaugas because, quite frankly, I'd like to hear their perspective on the provincial government and the Greenbelt lands. So are we planning on, I hope we're planning on doing that. They've asked for consultation, so are we going to consult with them?
Okay, so I do have some notes on this particular issue, so if we want to deal with this separately, that's fine. We can deal with it separately now and vote on it separately. So, okay. If that's okay. So,
fine.
So to put it on the floor, let us ask Member Seaborn to move and Member Hewson to second that we put this particular piece of correspondence on the floor for discussion. Okay. So, in August of this year, the chief of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation sent a letter to myself regarding any potential development of lands that have been removed from or designated in the Greenbelt areas within the Niagara Peninsula watershed by the province of Ontario. The letter requested a meeting with the NPCA to discuss the impacts of these Greenbelt changes and to work together to ensure MCFN's rights and interests are protected. The letter also asked NPCA to make no decisions within its authority respecting the former Greenbelt lands until they have had an opportunity to meet and discuss their concerns. There are 2 removed and 1 designated Greenbelt parcels within the NPCA's jurisdiction. 1 removed parcel is located in Hamilton. The other 2, 1 removed and 1 redesignated, are located in Grimsby. So just a few things about this. The NPCA is not the decision maker when it comes to any proposals to develop these parcels. NPCA is a commenting agency for any municipal planning processes initiated on any of these lands. To date, NPCA has been involved with pre-consultation meetings for the removed lands in Hamilton and for the removed lands in Grimsby, where we have made our development requirements known. To date, we have not been circulated any formal applications for these lands to respond to. It is recommended that a staff-level meeting with Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation go ahead to hear their concerns and to help them better understand our role in any potential future development of the lands in question. So that is the view from the NPCA. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, go ahead, Member Beattie.
Having said that, are we going to consult?
The problem is that
their ask is to consult. I realize we don't have any authority, but it might be interesting to get their perspective.
the issue is that we are not the ones making the decisions on this. It is the municipalities. So I think they're coming to the wrong group when it comes to requesting this. That's what we're trying to say out of this. So, but as we've stated, it does make sense for us to at least have a discussion, go on with them to find out what their concerns really truly are within this. Okay. Member Cridland?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think it's just echoing what you've just agreed that the CA is going to be doing on our behalf, so that's great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? Member Clark?
Can I suggest that yourself be a part of that meeting? We've experienced work with the Haudenosaunee in Hamilton on our joint stewardship board, and they've made it pretty clear that they prefer to have discussions government to government. So as the chair, just being present to hear what they have to say and know that we are listening, I think it really sends a strong message, and we need to strengthen our relationships with the Indigenous communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And that we can arrange as we reach out to do this. So, any other questions or any other comments to this? The motion is on the floor to accept this correspondence. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. And there's two other items of correspondence. One is from about the Beamer Conservation Area, and the second is proposed provincial planning statement natural heritage policy. So we can put those on the floor. Can I get Member O'Neill to move that and Member Tattison to second? Yep. Yep. Member Seaborn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to find out a bit more about Grimsby's stand on Beamer. The first I heard of this was when I actually saw it in their minutes, but there was no information around it. So can you tell me what's going on there, please?
I think Director Christie, he's the one that's been handling the file on Beamer and where we've been going with that. So, Director Christie, could you deal with that?
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. So, in the spring, the NPCA took on a enhancement project with Beamer Conservation Area, just to look at options of way we can enhance it. We know through our data we have a very popular conservation area that needs some substantial enhancements to support the amount of visitation that are at the park. We've started with stakeholder consultation in the spring with all of our important stakeholders. Engagement, a Grimsby delegation, they had requested from us to pause the project until they could hear more about it. Due to that, we have paused it. We've decided that we're going to incorporate it into a management plan that we have to do anyways for the property. So that's kind of the update on the project.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when this started coming up in Grimsby, I was a little disappointed that the continuation of the work wasn't going to go on, So anyway, we're going to work through all the ins and outs to get us to a stage where the work will end up being completed there. All those in favor of the two items of correspondence? Anyone opposed? Let us move on to our next item this morning, and that is our presentation, and this is with Josh Diamond, our Manager of Watershed Monitoring and Reporting, concerning the Water Quality Monitoring Program, a summary report for the year 2022. For those of you watching at home or online, this is just, we're technically getting things set up at this moment. Not a blank time.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the NPCA board, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to provide you with an overview of the NPCA's Water Quality Monitoring Program, the summary report of the year 2022. The NPCA's Water Quality Monitoring Program was implemented in 2001, and the program consists of two components. The first component of this program is to assess the ambient water quality of our local watersheds. To accomplish this, the NPCA has developed a network of 80 surface water quality monitoring stations located throughout our entire watershed. These are the creeks and river systems in our watershed, not the Great Lakes or the drinking water treatment plants that the Niagara region has. The NPCA also has a groundwater monitoring program where groundwater parameters are monitored at 46 monitoring wells around our watershed. Since 2001, the NPCA has collected approximately 10,450 surface water samples and 390 groundwater samples through this program. It's one of the most comprehensive water quality sampling and analysis programs within the NPCA's jurisdiction. The second component of this program is to provide a requirement to report on our water quality information to our partners and the public. This is done through our annual water quality reports, such as this. Our Watershed Report Card initiative with Conservation Ontario, you might remember that back in March I presented on our Watershed Report Cards. And we also sometimes release special studies and technical reports. For the NPCA Surface Water Quality Monitoring Program, the NPCA collects samples during the ice-free season, typically from March to April. And water samples are analyzed at accredited labs for a whole suite of water quality parameters, such as general chemistry, nutrients, metals, and bacteria. Groundwater samples are collected yearly in the fall and will be described later in this presentation. This table shows a list of the key parameters that the NPCA uses for our analysis and our water quality reporting. The parameters selected have ecological threshold values such as provincial water quality objectives and Canadian water quality guidelines. These parameters are sensitive both to rural and urban land uses and commonly used by conservation authorities around Ontario. For our data analysis, the NPCA takes water quality data for 8 indicator parameters for each of our stations and summarizes 5-year blocks of data with the Canadian Water Quality Index. The Canadian Water Quality Index was developed by Environment and Climate Change Canada as a tool to transform complex water quality data into simpler descriptions. Through this tool, water quality is classified as excellent, good, fair, marginal, and poor based on 3 criteria. These criteria include 1, the number of parameters that do not meet the water quality objective or guideline, 2, the number of times the objective or guideline is not met, and 3 is the magnitude to which those objectives or guidelines are exceeded. So when we apply this tool to the NPCA surface water quality data for our 80 locations from 2018 to 2021 or 22, we find the following results. And you can see this on my map here. Each of those dots represents an NPCA surface water quality monitoring station. 59% of those dots are rated as poor, the red dots. 31% are rated as marginal, those are the yellow dots. 9 are rated as fair, the green dots, and there's 1 blue dot which is rated as good at the Welland Canal in Port Colborne, and that's rated as good. None of the stations could achieve the Canadian Water Quality Index rating of excellent. The highest water quality ratings in the NPCA watershed continue to be found in the upper 12-mile creek in Pelham, Point Avenue Drain and Beaver Creek in Fort Erie, the upper Welland River tribs in Hamilton, the lower Welland River in Niagara Falls, and the Welland Canal. And that's mainly because there's lots of natural landscape, or it's literally coming out of the ground downstream of where we're sampling. So the water is often unimpacted at that point. Generally, the Canadian water quality ratings that we are giving to our stations that we're finding are relatively stable when we compare those to our historic data sets. Based on the water quality data the NPCA collects, elevated concentrations of total phosphorus and E. coli are the most frequent and widespread causes of water quality impairment in the NPCA watershed. The high frequency and magnitude of these exceedances are the driving factors in lowering the water quality ratings at our stations. In the case of total phosphorus, approximately 90% of the samples collected from 2018 to 2022 exceeded provincial water quality objective. Total phosphorus, not inherently toxic, but it is an essential nutrient that can overstimulate algae and aquatic plants. In this slide, I provided a picture of a typical summer picture of Big Forks Creek in Waynfleet, where there's the annual overgrowth of algae and aquatic plants due to nutrient enrichment at our sampling station. You can see the creek covered in algae there. Below that picture is a dissolved oxygen profile of that same site, which shows the blue line, which is dissolved oxygen of that watershed from June to October of a typical year, which shows how the nutrient-enriched conditions can cause large jumps in dissolved oxygen concentrations due to photosynthesis and respiration. So that up and down at the beginning part of the year. But you'll also notice beyond that, sustained times when the dissolved oxygen falls below the provincial water quality objective, which is represented by that red line. And you can see that almost the whole mid to late summer, we observed low dissolved oxygen. And you can imagine that being very difficult for aquatic life at that site. Sources of phosphorus include fertilizer, sewage, and animal waste. In the case of E. coli, 60% of our samples from 2018 to 2022 exceeded the provincial water quality objective. E. coli refers to a large group of bacteria that are commonly found in the intestines of humans and some animals. Most strains are harmless, but some strains obviously can cause severe illness in people. And this parameter is responsible for most of the beach postings that we find in our area. Sources include sewage and animal waste. Our monitoring program is also detecting a significant number of chloride exceedances in our urban watersheds due to road salt applications. The NPCA's groundwater monitoring program consists of 46 monitoring wells at different locations in our surface water. Dots on this map represent a groundwater monitoring site. Groundwater samples are collected yearly in the fall and analyzed for water chemistry and compared to Ontario drinking water standards. The water quality at most of our wells meets the Ontario drinking water standards, but there are ongoing health-related exceedances related to sodium in some of our wells, and in one case, nitrate. These health exceedances have been followed up with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation Parks, and Niagara Public Health. These exceedances were found to be a combination of local land use impacts and because of the natural conditions of the groundwater that's being sampled. The NPCA also did find several aesthetic-related exceedances. These aesthetic-related exceedances may not be a source of health-related issues, but these exceedances typically make the groundwater unpalatable or unpleasant for normal use, such as buildup, staining, or having an unpleasant odor. The NPCA continues to recommend regular water testing and water treatment when using groundwater for drinking water and other uses. There are several strategies the NPCA uses to improve water quality in our watershed. The best approach available to reducing the non-point source pollution like phosphorus and E. coli is through the implementation of best management practices, such as nutrient management, wastewater storage, cover crops, riparian buffer, sediment control, and reducing livestock access to waterways. The NPCA's restoration program encourages the implementation of best management practices by providing expertise and cost sharing for projects for interested landowners. To support groundwater protection in our watershed, the NPCA has a water well decommissioning grant program to assist interested well owners with the cost to decommission their abandoned wells. Since 2007, the NPCA has partnered with well owners to decommission 117 wells. The NPCA also continues to work with its municipal, ministry, and academic partners to investigate water quality issues of concern that have been identified through our water quality monitoring program. In the case, if you look at the slide I have, the top right, we are doing some DNA source tracking of E. coli, where we were seeing human sewage in one of our water courses, and we were working with the local municipality for that. And below, we just recently partnered with Brock University to do a study of Wignall Drain in Port Colborne to understand how the nutrients are moving in that system. The data that's collected through the NPCA's water quality monitoring program is very robust and used by many agencies. And in 2022, the NPCA received 45 water quality data requests over that time in 2022. And it highlights the importance of our data to our watershed. Data requests include from our municipalities. Niagara Region most recently requested our Lower Welland River data for the South Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant environmental assessment. We get requests from the Ontario, or MECP, local district office for their investigative work, academics, consultant, and the public. The NPCA is also releasing our water quality monitoring report fact sheet as an educational tool again this year to communicate the results of our water quality summary report and identify how the community can take action to improve water quality in our watershed. And this will be available on our website. And happy to answer any questions. And I'd just like to acknowledge our partners, Niagara Region, City of Hamilton, Haldimand County, and the MECP and the Ontario government. And just highlight my colleagues who do all the great work out in the field in the watershed monitoring and reporting division, Eric Augustino and Carly Tesaro, who are collecting all these samples. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Josh. Are there any questions from any members of committee at this point? Member Cridland, please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. Really excited to see how much uptake there is of the data. So again, correct me if I'm, but the Conservation Authority is really wanting to make sure everybody knows this data is available, certainly at all the different organizational levels that can then do the actions and expand on the work that we would like to see done. So if we look back maybe a year or two, are we seeing way more uptake of the data? Maybe you could just comment on what you're seeing for trends for updates on data from the slide you've presented. Thank you very much.
Through the chair and to the member, absolutely. Year to year, there's probably not much of a difference from the previous year, but I've been doing this for 20 years, the data request have increased significantly. We've kind of been recognized as the agency that has the ambient or the general water quality of all the creeks and rivers in Niagara. Our partners are aware of that. The universities and the colleges locally know we have that information. So like the Brock University partnership this year is a really good example of that. They read our water quality monitoring report, and the ease in which we can partner with them and provide data to them makes those types of interactions really good. And I'm really happy to see that, because I really think this is what the whole point of this program is to share data and build partnerships and then actually understand what's going on in our watersheds with more sort of a wholesome look of all of us working together.
Thank you. Just one more comment. And again, thank you for that. And it's probably already happened, but maybe in our next annual report we can showcase some of those great success stories, or at least squeeze one of them in. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Josh? I can't see you guys online. Does anybody online wish to ask any questions? No? Okay. With that, thank you very much, Josh.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask Member Metcalf to move that we accept this presentation, and Member Clark, could you second that, please? Or receive? Yeah, or receive, sorry. And let's go all in favor. Okay, great, thank you. Oh, now I can see Diana and John. There we are. We have a delegation this morning, and it's Lindsay Taylor, who's Sustainability Director for the St. Catharines Downtown Association, and it's concerning natural asset management. And so I'm going to give a brief bio of you, Lindsay, if that's okay. So Lindsay's a past recipient of an individual award of merit from the NPCA. She's a local leader who seeks to create opportunities to engage peers in sustainability actions and environmental stewardship. In 2020, she founded NC Stewards, a sustainability club at Niagara College that aims to encourage environmental action across campus and connect students to community volunteer opportunities. Recently, Lindsay played a critical leadership role in coordinating volunteers and members of the St. Catharines Downtown Association Streetscape and Sustainability Committee to install 14 native plant pollinator gardens in the downtown core. She also worked with Niagara College Indigenous Education Department to incorporate Indigenous teachings with Western science to promote the benefits and importance of native plants using a digital QR code on plant tags. Very impressive. Lindsay's getting herself set up here technically. You good to go? Yeah, great. Thanks, Lindsay.
There we go. Thank you so much for that introduction today. And thank you to the Board of Directors for the NPCA for welcoming me here to present to you on natural asset management throughout our watershed. Although I did have a brief introduction, I'll just give the spiel again. So as mentioned, my name is Lindsay. I'm the Sustainability Director with the St. Catharines Downtown Association. We are a business improvement area in downtown St. Catharines, representing over 700 members, which include commercial property owners and their tenants, which is our small businesses. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that our small businesses are why I'm here today to present to you and advocate for this very important area, our urban growth zone. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Conservation Halton's Martin Keller, who met with me after our brief stint at the Great Lakes Conference recently, and also Roy Brook from Natural Asset Initiative, who's informed this presentation today. So if you're anything like me, when I first began my role, I was told about green infrastructure and natural asset management, and I certainly did not have an idea of what that was. So before I get into my presentation today, I will walk us all through green infrastructure and natural asset management, so we have a working language of that and some of the processes that we get to natural asset management inventorying throughout our watershed. I will provide you with some case studies that we did downtown and also that were performed within Conservation Halton. Briefly, I'll touch on some of the stakeholders that we met with to do this process and then look at some next steps for you today. So natural asset management defined are the stocks of natural resources or ecosystems that contribute to providing one or more services for the health, well-being, and long-term sustainability of a community. So from the NPCA's perspective, that's just the stock of natural resources controlled or managed or relied upon by the Conservation Authority to deliver certain services. Green infrastructure is broken down into three categories. So there are natural assets, which is the core of our conversation today. There are enhanced assets, which we studied downtown, and engineered assets, which are outside the scope of my presentation. When I'm talking about natural assets, I'm referring to wetlands, forests and parks, lakes, rivers, fields, soils that provide one or more services for our community. And that can be anything from water quality improvement to stormwater drainage services. When I'm talking about enhanced assets, and I'm going to land on urban trees because that's something I have come to know a lot more about, these are green infrastructure where humans have come in and changed things slightly, but it doesn't require a heavy amount of service and maintenance. Now, I say that hesitantly because what we found through our urban tree study is that within an urban ecosystem in particular, there are many site preparation and site constraints that we have to consider when we're looking at these sorts of infrastructure pieces. Now, at this point, you're like, okay, I got a little bit of a sense of what green infrastructure is and what natural asset manages, but why? Why would we want to care about natural asset management? Well, at a really high level, Canada is seeking to be net zero by 2050, and many of stakeholders are interested in meeting these objectives as well. Certainly downtown believes in this objective, and we're looking at every possible way we can get there. Additionally, COP15 Convention on Biological Diversity stressed and pushed the importance of biodiversity for a climate resilient future. And I'm going to take this moment to touch on the fact that when we did our urban street tree study, we found that biodiversity is certainly lacking, as many of our trees get removed and are replaced with monocultures, and we do have the data to show that. From a local perspective, and I can certainly speak all day about this, certainly there's a strong demographic that's demanding things like active transportation, green infrastructure, and nature-based solutions. But there are some challenges with meeting certain service levels at the level of service that residents are looking for. So when I say service level, I'm saying, like, what do we actually have to deliver to the public, right? What are the things that they're looking for? Shading, cooling, a transportation route. These are some of the things when I think of a service level. And then the level of service is what quality are people looking for when they think of those particular services. Now, another challenge or opportunity that we're dealing with right now is dated infrastructure. So many of our infrastructure downtown is in need of replacement, and this will cause a significant burden and investment from the taxpayer. So we have all these reasons why, but now is the time, because by July 1st, 2024, the province of Ontario has approved that natural asset management be considered underneath asset management policies in the asset management plan for all municipal infrastructure. So not only is it why, but now is the time. So I'll speak briefly to the 3 phases. Though I'm no expert, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to Roy Brook about this. But in the first step, we would identify and assess all of our natural assets throughout the watershed and determine the service levels and levels of service we expect from those natural assets. This would certainly involve an inventorying process, which we have gone through downtown. We certainly would love to share that data with you. And there are resources and tools for us to do that inventorying. Next, we go into a planning phase where we do a risk assessment to identify which natural assets require further investment and prioritization. And then we get started, we get to work, because climate action requires action today. So the 3 case studies I'm going to speak to, the one will be from Conservation Halton, and I would highly encourage you to reach out to Martin Keller to discuss that further, as they did one of Grindstone Creek. Our urban street tree study downtown, which I'll take this particular moment to pause and say thank you to my whole team, which includes the St. Catharines Downtown Association, urban forestry researcher Shad Parkinson, and 2 environmental management and assessment interns from Niagara College. And then lastly, the case study we'll talk about is low impact development, our sustainable urban drainage systems within the downtown BIA. There we go. So I had the pleasure of meeting Martin Keller at the Great Lakes Conference held in May in Toronto, Ontario, where he presented on his natural asset management project throughout Grindstone Creek. It was really fascinating to learn about the methodology and the inventorying process, but what really stood out to me, and I pulled this quote for you, is that they found within this particular locality that natural assets for stormwater services alone was estimated at $2 billion. And that's a very stunning figure if you think about the future of climate resiliency and mitigation and some of the costs that it will take to get there. Mitigating those costs or engineering our way out of that future can certainly be very costly when we have these services already available to us. I highly encourage you to read the full report. I have provided a QR code. You're welcome to scan it. And again, I encourage you to reach out to Martin Keller to learn more about that study. Of course, my favorite study, our urban street tree study. Our report began with one very simple question, as great research always does. How can we bring more trees downtown? We did a thorough literature review and a census of all of our street trees for their species, their diameter at breast height, and a qualitative health assessment. And we concluded from this study that it wasn't through bringing more trees downtown that we would reach our goals. It was when we had large adult and mature trees that we were actually realizing the value of trees within our downtown BIA. So we changed our research question to say, how can we better manage and measure our urban forests to ensure that urban street trees reach maturity? And then through our stakeholder engagement process, we met with Cassandra Pacey from the City of Waterloo, and she's an asset manager there. They're already undergoing that process, and they have considered urban street trees as a critical non-core asset. And she said to us, and this quote was very powerful to me, that natural asset management is a meaningful way for municipalities to respond to the impacts of climate change. And I know here within the Niagara region in particular, we look to the NPCA as leaders in terms of our natural environment, which I think is a unique perspective that you all bring to the table today. So one last thing about our urban street tree study. So as I mentioned, we went to the International Association for Great Lakes Research Conference in May, but I will have the absolute pleasure of heading to Darwin, Australia to present our urban street tree research at the Society for Ecological Restoration Conference as well, which is an amazing opportunity for us to advocate for asset management and natural asset management on a global stage. So last but not least, we did do a study throughout this summer to look at low impact development projects throughout our downtown, particularly at sites where they wanted to enhance their boulevards with paving. So what we're trying to do is offer a sustainable solution as an alternative to paving sites. So at this time, we don't have any more information, but if you are interested in low impact development and want to learn more, I highly encourage you to look at the Sustainable Technologies Wiki developed through Sustainable Technologies. So last but not least, it takes a village to get there. So I did want to acknowledge that these were some of the stakeholders that we met with throughout this journey of discovering what is green infrastructure and what is natural asset management. Particularly from the NPCA's point of view, we did want to highlight all the municipalities that we have the opportunity of working with together as a team, as a group, as a village, to combat and have meaningful action against climate change. So where do we go from here? So here are some possible next steps for the board of directors here today at the NPCA to consider. I'd highly recommend setting up a meeting with Roy Brooks from Natural Asset Initiative. He could certainly talk more about the process of inventorying and making decisions on your risk assessment. Otherwise, there are 3 other options available to the NPCA. One would be a roadmap workshop where you look at a very high level to see the direction of natural asset management throughout the watershed. The next step would be identifying an area for an inventory of natural assets. And I would like to take this moment to pause and say, as a business improvement area for an urban growth zone, I believe 100% that this is the site for sustainable development. Do not see sustainable development within our green belts. I highly encourage anyone to, again, value and prioritize our urban growth zones for densification. And inventorying within and surrounding our urban growth zones is essential. The last project, and Martin Keller could certainly speak to this as the Conservation Halton already undertook this, would be a full asset management project. And I've listed the cost here for you, and certainly, again, Rory can speak more to those. So let's say you want to head in a different direction and do things in-house. I certainly have a respect for that. The CSA W21823 specifications for natural asset inventories can give you a starting point for at least giving you the methodology for doing a natural asset inventory. There are other projects such as our own for urban street trees and the Grindstone Creek case study for you to review to make some further decisions. Again, thank you so much for your time today, for welcoming me and allowing me to present to you on natural asset management and the projects we're undertaking within our urban growth zone in our business improvement area downtown. If you have any further questions, I can welcome them now, or if you think about them in the middle of the night, my contact information is listed there. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. So are there any questions for Lindsay at this point? Member Seaborn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I'm from Grimsby. Grimsby has a pretty interesting downtown, and we have trees both sides. In fact, they extended it right along the boulevards right through to Town Hall last year, which I thought was pretty good. The boulevards are one thing, and certainly the medians that are on both sides of the sidewalk are another thing. But the downtown area has a problem, and that is, I think it's several-fold, and maybe you can give me some suggestions that I can pass along. First of all, I think they need to be more mindful of the species of tree they put in, because they just don't seem to have enough room to flourish. So if they get too big, now they're banging into buildings, or branches are being broken, whatever. Others, they might not have enough room for the roots to grow. I mean, they're being built in a hole around sidewalks and what have you. Our whole downtown road is going to be redone in a couple of years, and I think at that time there's going to be a lot of trees that are going to be disrupted because the roots will be hit. So I just wonder, do you have an inventory or a list of trees that are more favorable for a downtown area where they can survive in that root ball and not get too big?
Absolutely, and maybe I could take 2 steps back to take 2 steps forward here. So within downtown St. Catharines, we believe that it is always the best tree for the site that you are given. We do have a short list of trees that range from short and small stature trees to large stature trees that are suitable for an urban environment. We consulted with the City of Toronto to come up with a short list. It is within our report, but I would be happy to follow up with those as well. Another thing I would advocate for, if they are doing a revitalization of their main street, would be the inclusion of what's called a soil cell system, or the popular brand name right now is a Silva cell. So this is basically a unit that has particular soil layers and aggregates within it to encourage root growth in particular direction while allowing infiltration and nutrient delivery to the root system. So if they're going to be removing those trees from what urban forestry would refer to as a tree coffin, implementing a soil cell system in lieu as a part of the revitalization is something I'd highly recommend. But I can certainly follow up with a short tree list.
Hey, Lindsay, I may send you an email right to that point. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Lindsay. Let's move into consent items this morning, somewhat coincidentally, report number FA 3823, Natural Assets Inventory and Management Initiative, and this is for receipt. Can I get Member Beattie to move and Member Grant to second that we put this on the floor? Thank you.
Staff provide a visual review because of this presentation, just not to kind of share what we are doing in the public.
It's up to you.
Yes.
Okay, so Chandra would like staff to briefly provide some input to this for us, given the presentation that we've just had. Is appropriate. Oh, here we go, Natalie.
Hello, thank you. Through you, Chair, to the members. So the report before you for receipt is complimentary of Lindsay's presentation today, and I wanted to thank her again for that presentation. Saved me from having to do a presentation. Very well done, and highlighting the work that the NPCA is currently undertaking as part of our climate change initiatives. We have a fulsome asset management program in place, which is under a 4-year schedule, which is more of the traditional asset management planning. Our buildings, our properties, those capital assets that we do have to continue to look at in terms of the life cycle and maintenance costs. On top of that, the natural assets management is something that we have been looking into, and we are, as part of our strategic plan and our climate change initiatives, looking to be a leader in this realm and supporting our municipal partners and providing the information, the expertise, and the resources to help with the natural assets inventory and management moving forward. So some projects underway right now is a fulsome carbon sequestration, natural assets inventory and assessment of the entire watershed jurisdiction. We have a lot of that data existing already through our ecological land classification. So we're very excited to have this data as a baseline for municipal partners and for other groups looking for that information. Part of that will be also evaluation. So looking at, like Lindsay had mentioned, what are those ecosystem services? What is the replacement cost? How should we be maintaining and supporting these natural assets in the face of climate change, which is very important right now. We are also undertaking a project with the town of Fort Erie as a pilot to showcase our expertise and our initiative with natural asset inventory and assessment. So we are partnering with Fort Erie. It's a highly collaborative approach with the town of Fort Erie. They're undertaking their asset management plan to meet Ontario Regulation 588. And we are supporting that through providing data, looking at their natural assets, municipally owned assets within the town of Fort Erie. A major data gap that we noted was an urban street tree inventory, and that is currently underway. Our staff are out as we speak, conducting the inventory of the urban trees in the town of Fort Erie. We have made tremendous progress over the summer on this. We're looking to have it completed by November. So as well as the inventory, we record other data for the municipality. So the condition of the trees, the health of the tree, what type of landscape is it in, a softscape like grass or a hardscape like in a downtown area, because that does affect the health and the condition and the replacement cost of that tree and the benefits, the ecosystem services that it provides. So we're very pleased. That's probably longer than I should have been. We're very pleased to be leaders in this area and hoping to continue our work and supporting our municipal partners, supporting other stakeholders, for example, the Downtown Business Association, and looking to continue this work and showcasing our climate change initiatives and what we can do all collectively to make a positive impact on the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments to the report? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. That is carried. Let us move on to our next report this morning, and it is our first discussion item report, I might add, is the NPCA appointment of regulations officers. With that, can I ask Member Cridland to move that, and Member Seaborn, could you second that, please? Are there any questions to this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Second discussion item report is report FA 37-23, and it's the Water Quality Monitoring Program Summary Report for the year 2020, which we had the earlier presentation. Can I ask Member Houston to move that we accept this report or do this report? And Member O'Neill, could you second that, please?
Happy to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions to the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Third report this morning is the 2023 NPCA Quarterly Progress Report. It's number 5, required for Conservation Authorities Act amendments, transition plan and amendments, and request for extension of final transaction date. And that's report FA 35-23. Get this on the floor. Can I ask Member Tattison to move and Member Metcalf to second that, please?
Moved.
Yep. Madam Charma, do you have any comments on this report?
To you, Chair.
Hi, good morning. Just wanted to let the members know it's a standard quarterly progress report. However, what we are requesting as staff is asking the ministry for an extension of a few months to undertake Category 3 agreements with municipalities, and I think the timing, the extension timing will best align with municipal budget processes, because we don't anticipate municipalities to approve a portion of our budget in advance of their overall budget approval. So it will make common sense to have those agreements signed after the budget process is said and done. So that's the request to the ministry, and we have to submit that request by October 1st. So it will be prudent for the board to authorize staff to do that, and we'll put a letter in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So any questions or any comments to this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. And we have no committee reports this morning. We have no motions. Do we have any notices of motion anyone wishes to mention this morning? Don't see any. Let us move to new business, and we're going to go for a verbal update of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation. Diana, you're up.
Chair, everyone can hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good.
Yeah, okay, good. Sharon, stand up and give a big wave, because we're really thrilled to have her on the team.
She's waving in the back. We're good.
Wonderful. So we want to give her a huge welcome to the team and looking forward to working with her. We did have a number of meetings with NPCA, or she had a number of meetings with the NPCA managers and board members, and is familiarizing herself with the operations and staff, and of course the fundraising campaign planning. We also participated in the Niagara Regional Chairs Golf Tournament, and myself and Vice Chair Metcalf was there. I was very happy to have some golfers there who were better than me. Thank you, John. And also our member Greenwood and member Cridlin participated, and we had a great team, and we had a lot of fun that day, and it was good to have the Conservation Foundation and Authority really represented there. There has been some community engagement at the E.C. Brown Conservation area. And in September, we're planning to focus on reviewing the website and our marketing tools, as well as social media. We have a Many Seeds app activation going on, as well as engagement with Niagara College in terms of the Comfort Maple video pitch and a Safe Tree site visit. We also had a campaign fundraising meeting on the 14th. So we're looking at potential donors, which is exciting. And for things to come, you can expect the release of our annual report. We'll be helping to participate in the Balls Falls Festival and a Director's Challenge. And of course, we have had a couple of donations come in so far, being a $10,000 donation from the Sandra Florence Foundation, a $1,000 personal donation, thanks to member Cridlin. And we also had a $4,500 Enbridge gas fueling futures grant. So we are pending a $10,000 donation from the Regional Chairs Golf Tournament. We'll be excited when that comes in. And that's about it for now. So I think lots, we're certainly starting to hit the ground. We've still got a lot of work to do in getting ourselves organized and I think polished, but everyone is very enthusiastic about the work and certainly starting to move things forward.
Okay, thank you, Member Hewson. And I do want to say thank you, John, for stepping in for me at the golf tournament. Being a political sort that I am, I ended up with other things that got booked that day, and I couldn't make it. But he was a much better fit for all of you guys than me anyway. So, I was talking to Member Cridlin. That day went really well.
Well, thank you, Chair Foster. It was a great day. We had a lot of fun, and the tournament's well organized, and what a beautiful course. So, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and the three other golfers I was with, I think we had a terrific time out there and represented the NPCA well, and the foundation as well. So thank you again.
Thank you. there any questions to Member Houston regarding the foundation? Okay, thank you, Diana. Anyone else with any new business this morning? Seeing none, we have a closed session that we have to move into. And with that, I need a mover and a seconder for us to go into closed session. And so, further with that, can I get Member Clark to move that we go into closed session to deal with the published items? And Member Beattie, would you second that, please? All those in favor? And that is carried. So with that, just a reminder that this is a closed session. For those of you that are online, please make sure that you are in a situation where you have privacy when it comes to dealing with the closed session. And for those in here, we will remove those that should not be here. So give us about 5 minutes and we'll get started. So we're back online after our closed session. So we dealt with 2 reports in closed session, and so we will be doing our motions to approve what we discussed in closed session in open session. So with that, I'm going to ask Member Clark and Member Grant to move that, where are we here? Just a second. Got too many pieces of paper. Oh yeah. A proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the NPCA, a confidential report land acquisition, be approved from closed session. Okay. All those in favor? That is carried. Our second item was, and we'll move Member Hewson and Member Metcalf, move that we approve a matter of proposed or pending negotiation of leased property by the NPCA, a confidential report, number FA 4023, lease negotiation, and we'll leave it at that. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Good meeting, and we look forward to our next full authority meeting coming up in the near future. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
15 minutes.
So we have a governance meeting that's coming up shortly hereafter. So give you a few minutes to rest, refresh, whatever you wish.